He empty stomach and the silent cry. The night was cold on the edge of the colony. The sky above was filled with strange stars, and the wind carried dust from faraway mountains. John, a middle-aged human mechanic, walked slowly back to his workshop after a long day. His boots crunched over the dry ground. He was tired, but something made him stop. He heard a sound, faint, almost like a whisper. It wasn't the wind. He turned his head, ears focused. There it was again, a soft cry hidden behind the supply crates near the outer fence. It didn't sound human. John walked toward the noise carefully. He pushed aside a pile of broken panels. That's when he saw her, a tiny alien baby. She was shaking, wrapped in torn fabric. Her skin was pale and dry. Her big eyes were full of fear, and she didn't even have the strength to cry out loud. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. John knelt beside her, slowly. "Hey there. Where's your family?" he whispered. The baby blinked, then looked behind him. John followed her gaze and froze. Someone was watching. In the shadows, an alien woman stood silently behind the rusted fence. She was thin, too thin. Her cheeks were hollow, her eyes sunken. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She only stared at her child, chest rising and falling with quick breaths. John stood and raised his hand slowly. "I'm not here to hurt you." She looked ready to run. But then the baby gave a soft cough, and her whole body shook. The mother stepped forward. Not quickly. She collapsed to her knees and crawled. She reached the baby and pulled her close, wrapping her arms around the child like a shield. Her clothes were torn, her fingers dirty and bruised. John opened his pack. He pulled out a small food bar, his last one for the day, and held it out. The mother's eyes locked on the food, but she didn't take it. Instead, she looked at her baby. The little girl was trying to suck on her mother's fingers, but there was no milk left, only skin and bone. Still, the woman refused. John stepped back a little, placed the food bar on a flat stone, and waited. A few seconds passed. Then the alien woman slowly reached out, hand shaking, and took the food. She didn't eat it. She broke it into tiny pieces and fed her child first. Only after the baby began chewing did she place a crumb in her own mouth. Her lips trembled. And then she started crying. It was not loud, not wild. It was soft, like her soul was breaking quietly. John didn't say anything. He just watched. He felt something heavy in his chest. He had seen many things in this strange galaxy. Wars, monsters, broken machines. But this silent moment of a mother feeding her child felt more powerful than all of it. The baby finished eating and looked up at him with wide, curious eyes. The mother finally whispered something, but John didn't understand her language. Still, her voice sounded like, "Thank you." John bent down again. "Can you walk?" he asked gently. The mother shook her head. She pointed to her ankle. Swollen. Possibly broken. John looked around. No guards yet. But they came by this road often. If they found her here, they'd arrest her. Maybe even leave her outside the walls. Aliens were not welcome without permits. John made a choice. He picked up his coat and carefully wrapped the mother and child inside it. She was too weak to stop him. Her body shivered. But she didn't. "Fight, I'm taking you to my workshop," John said quietly. "You'll be safe there." He carried them through the dark streets, avoiding the main paths. His heart was beating fast. If anyone saw him helping an undocumented alien, he could be punished. Or worse, exiled. But he didn't care. He reached the back of his workshop, opened the secret door he once used to hide old tools, and laid the mother and child inside on a warm blanket. He gave them water. He gave them his pillow. And then, for a long time, he just sat beside them in silence. The mother clutched her baby and stared at him, not with fear anymore, but with a soft, tired hope. The soft hum of machines filled the air in John's workshop. The walls were lined with old parts, tools, and scraps. But tonight it wasn't just a place for fixing engines. It had become a shelter. John sat on a stool, watching the alien mother sleep beside her child on a thin mattress. She looked peaceful now, but her face was still pale, her arms too thin. Her baby was curled against her chest, tiny fingers gripping the edge of John's old coat. Morning came slow. The sun rose over the colony, painting the sky in orange and red. But John didn't move. He didn't go to work. He just waited, and then she opened her eyes. The mother flinched as soon as she saw him. Her arms tightened around her baby. She looked around the workshop, confused, afraid. She tried to stand, but her leg gave out, and she fell to her knees. John moved forward, quickly. "No, don't stand. You're hurt," he said gently. She stared at him, panting. He raised both hands to show he meant no harm. "I brought you here last night. You were cold, hungry. I couldn't leave you out there." The woman didn't understand his words, but she watched his eyes. Slowly, she sat back down, still holding her child close. John reached into a drawer and pulled out a packet of food paste and a warm cloth. He placed them on the floor between them and stepped back. She didn't move. Her baby, however, made a soft sound and reached out a hand. The woman looked down at her child, and something broke inside her. She bent forward, bowed low, and touched her forehead to the floor. She was kneeling. In front of a human, John was stunned. No, please don't do that," he said quickly, stepping forward. She didn't raise her head. She stayed on her knees, motionless, as if she expected punishment, or worse. John knelt too. He gently touched her shoulder. She flinched again but didn't pull away this time. He whispered, "You don't owe me anything." Her eyes finally rose to meet his, red, swollen from crying but still alive. Then she said something in her own language. He didn't know the words, but he felt the meaning. Why? Why would a human help her? John didn't have a simple answer, so he pointed to a small photo taped to the wall. It showed a little human girl, maybe 5 years old, bright eyes, a wide smile, and gone too soon. "My daughter," he said softly. "I lost her, long ago." The alien mother looked at the photo, then back at him. She slowly nodded. Somehow she understood. He handed her the food again. This time she took it. But before she ate, she broke the packet open and gave every soft bite to her child first. She watched her baby chew slowly, making tiny sounds of joy. Only when her child was full did she take a small bite herself. She chewed slowly, carefully, like she wasn't used to eating. Then her lips trembled again, and tears fell. But this time, they weren't just tears of pain. They were tears of relief. John gave her water next, and a blanket. He motioned to his cot in the corner. "You and the baby can sleep there tonight," he said. "I'll sleep on the floor." She didn't speak. She just watched him with wide, tired eyes. As the hours passed, John began cleaning up the shop. He worked slowly, quietly, so he wouldn't wake the baby. He noticed her eyes following him, not with fear anymore, but with curiosity. Later, she pointed to herself and said softly, "Zirel." John stopped. "Zirel?" She nodded. He pointed to himself. "John." She repeated it. "John." It was the first time they had shared names. The ice between them was breaking. John sat down on the floor again. "Zirel, your child needs care, real food, a doctor. But the colony guards, they won't help you." Zirel looked away. She knew that truth already. She had lived with it for weeks. She had begged, hidden, stolen scraps, and now, for the first time, someone had not pushed her away. Someone had shown her kindness. As the sun faded outside, Zirel pulled her child close and whispered something in her native tongue. John didn't know the words, but he knew what they meant. Thank you. And in that small, hidden workshop, where broken things were fixed, something else had quietly begun to heal. The sun rose high over the colony, casting sharp shadows across the dry ground. It was another ordinary day for most. But for John, everything had changed. He kept glancing at the corner of his workshop, where Zarel and her baby were hiding behind old crates. The baby was finally asleep, belly full and warm. Zarel sat beside her alert, her back straight. Even with her injured ankle and weak body, she looked ready to fight, to protect her child. John sighed and turned the radio on low. The local news crackled through. Attention, residents. A ration theft was reported near the east fence last night. Patrols are active. Unauthorized aliens will be removed on site. Cooperation is mandatory. John's jaw tightened. It was the ration bar he had given them, and now the colony guards were searching for the thief. He turned the radio off. Outside, 2 patrol guards in white suits marched down the street, their boots heavy, rifles strapped across their backs. They stopped in front of a neighbor's house asking questions. The neighbor pointed toward John's side of the street. They were getting close. Inside, Zarel tensed. She could hear them. Her breath came fast. John rushed over. "You need to hide now." Zarel nodded and scooped up her child. She limped to the crawl space beneath the workbench. John helped her slide inside, covering the gap with a rusted sheet of metal. The baby gave a small whimper. John froze. "Shh, please," he whispered, praying the guards hadn't heard. A sharp knock hit the workshop door. John wiped the sweat from his face and opened it. 2 guards stood there, faces unreadable under tinted visors. "Morning," John said calmly. "Routine search," one replied. "Rations went missing near the fence. We're checking all storage areas." John forced a smile. "You think I'm stealing from the colony now?" The guard didn't answer. He stepped inside, eyes scanning every corner. The second one followed, his gloved hand resting on his weapon. They walked slowly, checking shelves, crates, and supply drawers. Then, the second guard's boot stopped. Beside the workbench, he looked down. John's heart skipped a beat. The guard reached for the metal sheet. Before he could lift it, a loud clatter came from the back. A stack of metal rods had fallen on their own. John smiled awkwardly. "Old place. Gravity's always picking fights." The guard grunted, losing interest. He stepped away from the workbench and turned toward the door. Then, he saw something. A scarf. Red and soft. Alien fabric. It was Zarel's. She must have dropped it last night. The guard bent down and picked it up. "Where did this come from?" he asked sharply. John's mouth went dry. "It's just something I found in the scrap pile." The guard narrowed his eyes. "This isn't human material. You know the penalty for harboring non-citizens?" "I know," John said quietly. "Do you?" John said nothing. The guard stepped forward. "If we find out you're hiding anyone, John, there won't be a trial. You'll be exiled, left outside the gates." "I understand." The guards stood still for a long moment, then finally turned and left. The door shut. John locked it quickly and ran to the bench. He moved the metal aside. Zarel was holding her child tightly, shaking. Her eyes were wide with fear. She had heard everything. "They're gone," John said. "You're safe, for now." Zarel tried to speak, but no words came. John helped her out and led her back to the cot. She sat down slowly, her body trembling. He handed her a cup of water, and she drank. Then she looked at him, eyes filled with a hard question. "Why are you risking everything for us?" John sat across from her. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked down at his hands, rough, scarred, stained with oil from years of building machines, and now stained with guilt. He had watched others turn away from the weak before. He had done it himself once when the war first broke out. But this time, he couldn't. He finally spoke. "Because you're not the enemy. You're a mother. And I'm tired of pretending people like you don't matter." Zarel's lips parted as if she wanted to say something back, but she didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than words. That night, John reinforced the doors. He moved supplies to the crawl space and set up a sound blocker near the cot to mask baby noises. He knew the patrols would return. They always did. But now it wasn't just about hiding Zarel. It was about fighting the cruel rules of the outpost with quiet rebellion. One meal, one blanket, one act of mercy at a time. That night, the stars above the colony burned quietly. The wind outside whispered across the walls, but inside the workshop, everything was still. Zarel sat near a small heater, her baby asleep in her arms. The child's breathing was calm now, no longer weak or panicked. John sat a few feet away, sipping tea from a dented mug, pretending to read an old repair manual. But his eyes kept drifting to the mother and child. She looked different now. Not healthy, not strong, but less hollow, like the fire inside her had not gone out completely. Finally, Zarel looked up. She pointed to her ankle, now wrapped in soft cloth. Then she placed a hand over her heart and whispered, "Thank you, John." He smiled gently. "You're welcome." A pause followed. Then, without being asked, Zarel began to speak. Her voice was quiet. Her words were slow. Her accent was thick, but understandable. My home was far from here. Green sky, silver trees, water that glowed at night. Beautiful. She paused. Then the war came. John listened closely. Humans came with metal birds. Bombs fell. My people ran. My mate. He fought to protect the tunnels. He never returned. She looked down at her child. I was already carrying her. I escaped with nothing. No food, no family. I begged for help. No one cared. They said, "You are enemy." But I am only a mother. Her voice broke. John's throat tightened. He remembered the war, the fear, the propaganda. Humans were told that every alien was a threat, but this woman was no threat. She was starving, limping, feeding her baby with crumbs. She was just a mother with no one left. Zarel looked around the workshop. Here, I feel safe, but not for long. Guards will find us. John nodded. Yes, they're watching me now. I think someone told them. Zarel whispered. Then we must leave. He shook his head. You can't walk. And your child. She's too weak. If you go now, you'll both die. Zarel looked away, ashamed. I don't want you to die. John said. You can stay here, I'll figure something out. She met his eyes. Why? John hesitated. Then he pointed to the small picture still taped to the wall. His daughter smiling, forever 5 years old. She died in the first month of the war, he said. A supply ship dropped a bomb by mistake. Wrong coordinates. My home was destroyed. Zarel gasped softly. John continued. Since that day, I've been angry at everything. At aliens, at humans, at life. But when I saw your child crying last night, it felt like I was hearing my daughter cry again. And this time I had a chance to help. A heavy silence settled between them. Then Zarel placed her hand gently on his. It was the first time she had touched him willingly. I will not forget this, she whispered. The next morning, John visited an old friend, Dr. Yana, the only person in the colony who still treated aliens in secret. She was older than John, with silver hair tied in a braid and sharp eyes that missed nothing. You brought an alien into the colony? She whispered, closing the door behind him. John nodded. A widow and her baby, starving. She's hiding in my shop. Dr. Yana frowned. You could be executed for that. I know. She looked at him for a long time. Then she sighed. Good. Finally, someone has a soul. She gave him medicine, protein packs, baby milk, and a small injector for pain. She also handed him a blanket made from thermal fibers. She'll need warmth more than anything. Keep her hidden, John. If they catch her, they won't just exile her. They'll take the baby. John stiffened. They'll do what? They Think alien infants are a threat. Unpredictable. If it's weak, they destroy it. John left with fire in his chest. That night, as he fed the fire and handed the supplies to Zarel, she looked at the blanket in awe. It was soft, clean, unlike anything she'd touched in weeks. She wrapped her baby in it carefully, as if it were made of gold. Then she looked at John with wide, wet eyes. "I thought all humans hated us," she whispered. John knelt beside her. "Some do," he said honestly, "but not all." Zarel looked down at her child. "She has no name," she said. John blinked. "What?" "In my culture, a child is named after the first soul who shows them mercy." She looked up. "And you fed her first." John's chest tightened. "No, that's not—" Zarel smiled softly. "She is yours too now." The next morning came with alarms. A loud, sharp siren echoed through the colony streets, short blasts, followed by a deep voice on every speaker. "Alert! Unauthorized lifeforms may be hiding within the worker zone. All residents must allow security. Inspections, report anything suspicious. This is for your safety." John froze. The spoon in his hand trembled. He turned slowly to look at Zarel. She was already clutching her child to her chest. Her eyes said it all. They were coming. John rushed to the back door and peeked outside. 2 patrol trucks rolled down the street, kicking up dust. Each one had 3 armed guards in gray armor, faces covered. "Inspection," one shouted, knocking on his neighbor's door. "Step outside, hands up." John stepped back inside quickly. "We don't have much time." Zarel stood but stumbled. Her ankle was still swollen. Her baby, sensing the fear, began to whimper. John looked around the workshop, heart pounding. "Come with me," he said. He guided Zarel and her child to the back wall, where a false panel led to the old battery storage room, cold, dark, and soundproof. Hardly anyone went there anymore. He had sealed it off months ago. He pulled aside heavy crates and opened the panel. "Hide here. Don't make a sound," he whispered. Not even a breath. Zarel looked into the darkness, fear creeping into her eyes. "But my child—" John placed a soft cloth, a small bottle of milk, and the sound muffler device next to her. "She'll be okay. Just wait. I promise." Zarel stepped inside and turned one last time to look at him. She didn't say thank you, she just looked, like she was handing her life to him. Then the panel closed, just in time. A loud bang hit the front door. "Open up, John." A deep voice barked. "Inspection." He opened it slowly. 2 guards stood there, weapons ready. A third was already stepping inside, scanning the place. "Search order," the lead guard said, holding out a metal card. "What for?" John asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Ration thief, and someone reported movement near your shop last night. You weren't seen at the mess hall this morning. Odd, don't you think?" John shrugged. Didn't sleep well. Drank water instead. The guards split up. One checked under the workbench. One knocked over a pile of spare drone parts. The third walked straight toward the back wall. John's heart stopped. He stepped in front of the guard. "Be careful with that pile. Some of those cells are unstable. You break one, the whole shop could go up." The guard sneered. "Then maybe you should keep your place cleaner." Still, he turned back. John let out a slow breath. Then, a soft sound. A tiny cough. The baby. John's stomach dropped. The lead guard turned his head. "What was that?" John faked a cough. "That was me. Throat's dry. Want some oil?" The guard narrowed his eyes. "Why are you sweating, John?" "It's 30 degrees today," John said, "and 3 men with guns are tearing apart my shop." The guard didn't laugh. "We find anything, even a scent of alien presence, and you know the law." "I do," John said. "I also know no alien would hide in my workshop. I'm not that friendly." Another pause. Then finally, the lead guard turned. "Let's go." They left the door open behind them. John waited a full 5 minutes. Only then did he move. He pushed the crates aside, opened the false panel. Zarel was still inside, curled up with her baby. Both of them were shaking. "You're safe," John whispered. "For now." She covered her mouth and wept silently. That night, the stars outside were still, but something had changed inside the workshop. Zarel sat quietly, rocking her baby in her arms. The infant now slept peacefully, unaware of the danger that had passed. John sat by the heater, thinking. The colony was closing in, and someone had reported them. Someone nearby had seen something, or suspected. Zarel was no longer just a secret. She was a risk, not just to herself and her child, but to John too. "I need to move you," he finally said. Zarel looked at him, confused. "I know someone, a doctor. She can help. She might have a safe house underground." Zarel looked scared. "I won't let them take you," John said firmly, "but we can't stay here." Zarel placed her child on the blanket and crawled over to John. She touched his hand and spoke softly. "Then, we trust you, even if it means we run." John looked at her. A mother, a baby, 2 lives now tied to his. He nodded. "Then we move tomorrow." The next morning came with a red sky. Clouds moved like slow smoke across the colony, and something in the air felt heavier than usual. John didn't wait for breakfast. He packed what little food he had, water tubes, soft rations, and thermal wraps. Zarel sat on the cot, her baby wrapped tightly in the gifted blanket. Her eyes were wide and tired but calm. She had accepted it. They had to run now, or they would never be safe. John helped her up. Her ankle was better but still weak. He offered a walking stick and she nodded silently. The baby stirred but did not cry. Every sound might give them away. John opened the hidden back door of his workshop and checked the street. It was quiet. Too quiet. "We go through the junkyard," he whispered, then into the old water tunnels. Zarel nodded once. They moved carefully, John leading, Zarel following with soft, limping steps. The child clung to her mother, tiny head resting on her chest. The path was slow, every second filled with tension. But halfway across the yard, a voice shouted, "Halt!" John spun around. 3 guards appeared from behind scrap piles, weapons raised. The lead guard was the same one from the last inspection, Captain Reeve, a hard man with colder eyes than the machines he guarded. "You lied to me, John," he said. "We heard the baby." Zarel stepped back, heart racing. She shielded her child with her arms. "Don't hurt her," John said quickly, raising both hands. "It's not what you think," Reeve barked. "She's an undocumented alien. That baby could be dangerous. Orders are clear. Terminate threats." Zarel gasped and hugged her child tighter. John stepped forward. "She's not a threat. She's a mother. That's all." Reeve scoffed. "You're a traitor. You fed them, hid them. You broke every law this colony has." "I followed a different law," John replied calmly. "The one that still knows what mercy means." Another guard moved closer, aiming his gun at Zarel. The baby whimpered. And that's when someone else shouted from behind. "Enough!" Everyone turned. It was Dr. Yana, walking fast, holding a tablet with a medical seal flashing on it. "This woman and her child are under my care," she said. "Medical emergency override." Reeve laughed. "That seal doesn't apply to aliens." Yana's voice turned sharp. "That's not your decision. That's the colony court's. I've already filed it. Harm her now and you risk a legal strike." Reeve looked unsure. "She could still be—" "Look at her," Yana interrupted. "Does that look like a soldier? She can't even walk." Reeve stared at Zarel. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling, her baby hiding under her cloak. Still, he raised his rifle again. "I said stand down." Yana stepped between him and Zarel. Reeve lowered the weapon slowly. His hands were still, shaking, full of anger and confusion. But the law, even the little that protected aliens, had been spoken. "Fine," he spat. "She's your problem now, but when she slips and that baby becomes dangerous, it's your name on the file." He turned and left, the guards following him. Silence fell. Zarel fell to her knees in the dirt, tears running down her face. But this time, they were not only from fear, They were from something else. Survival. John bent down beside her. He held her shoulder gently. You're safe. For now. Dr. Yana walked over and placed a soft band around the baby's arm. This tracker will show she's under medical care. It'll buy us time. John helped Zarel up. What now? Yana glanced around, then pointed to the old med bunker nearby. She hides in there. I'll cover it. You, John. You stay out of sight. They'll watch you closely now. John looked at Zarel and her baby. He didn't want to leave, but he nodded. I'll be back. Zarel stepped forward. She didn't speak. Instead, she took his hand in hers and slowly pressed her forehead to his. A gesture of trust. A gesture of her people. Then she turned and disappeared into the hidden bunker. That night, John sat in his darkened workshop alone. Everything was quiet, but it didn't feel peaceful. He kept thinking of Zarel's eyes, her broken body, her strength to keep walking, for her child, and how close they had come to death that day. In another part of the colony, Zarel sat in a cold room with her child on her lap. The baby slept, skin warmer now, heartbeat steady. Zarel closed her eyes, whispered a soft prayer in her language, not to the stars, not to her lost mate, but for the human who chose mercy instead of blood. 2 weeks passed. The colony's search patrols slowed. Rumors faded. No one had seen the alien woman or her baby again. Many assumed they had died in the wastes, just another nameless tragedy under alien sky. But behind the old medical station, beneath layers of metal and dust, Zarel and her child were alive. They no longer looked like ghosts. The baby, now stronger, had color in her cheeks. She smiled. She babbled. She reached out with small fingers to explore the world again. Zarel, still limping, was walking on her own now. Her eyes no longer stayed low. She looked straight at people, at the world, at the sky. But one person stayed on her mind. John. One quiet evening, Zarel stood by the door of the bunker, a small bundle in her arms. Simple gifts she had made from scraps and cloth. She waited until the sun began to fall. Then she slipped out, wrapped in a cloak Dr. Yana had given her. No one stopped her. No one saw her. She reached the workshop just as John was locking the door for the night. He turned, startled. Zero? She pulled back her hood. He couldn't believe his eyes. You're walking, he whispered. She smiled. You taught me how, by not letting me fall. John's heart filled with quiet joy. He stepped aside and let her in. The workshop looked the same, but somehow different now, like it had been waiting for them. She placed the bundle on the table. Inside was a simple meal, spiced root mash, a folded bread, and something that looked like fruit, but alien in shape. From Dr. Yana's garden, she said. I helped cook, first time in many moons. John sat down. You didn't have to. Zarel nodded. I wanted to. They ate together in silence. It wasn't a feast, but it was the first real dinner they had ever shared. The baby, sitting in a blanket nearby, giggled and tried to grab John's spoon. He laughed and let her have it. She waved it around like a toy. She likes you, Zarel said softly. She reminds me why I kept breathing, John replied. Zarel looked at him seriously. You gave her food, and me hope. But you also gave something else. John looked up. What's that? A future. Later that night, as the stars blinked above, Zarel sat beside him, her child asleep on her chest. She turned and spoke slowly, choosing each word, with care. In my world, when someone saves your bloodline, you are no longer stranger. You become one of us. John said nothing. Zarel continued. We don't say thank you. We say, she placed her hand on his chest, you belong now. John felt his eyes burn. No one had said that to him in years. No one had made him feel like home wasn't something lost, but something you could build again. Outside the colony, in the months that followed, people whispered stories. Some said an alien child was seen in the gardens with a man who once worked alone. Some said a strange woman had been seen walking near, the riverside no longer hiding, and others spoke of a man who had once lost everything, but found a family not born from blood, but from choice. One night, around a small fire just outside the old walls, the man, the alien woman, and the child sat side by side. They broke bread. They shared smiles. And for the first time, the child, laughing and safe, reached out both hands toward John and said her very first word, "Papa."